Imagine a world where everything you know is slowly turning to dust. This isn't a scene from a science fiction film. It's the stark reality of the Virunga National Park region during its most unforgiving dry season. But this isn't a story of the strongest surviving. It's a story of the most compassionate hearts. A moment where empathy transcends the instinct of survival, blurring all lines between species. This tale begins not with a roar, but with a quiet, desperate march. The relentless sun had baked the earth to a cracked, ochre-colored expanse. Deep within the ancient rainforest, the usual abundance of ripe fruit and tender shoots had vanished, leaving behind only the ghosts of a once vibrant ecosystem. The desperation was palpable, pushing life forms of all kinds to the fringes of their known world. Among them was a silverback gorilla, a creature of immense power and quiet dignity. His name was Keto. He was the alpha, the protector, and the father. His massive frame, a testament to years of strength and dominance, now seemed to carry the weight of his entire family's hunger. His eyes, deep and knowing, held a vigilant caution as he led his troop out of the forest's heart and towards a new, perilous frontier, the border with human civilization. He was not looking for confrontation. He was looking for life. The faint, sweet scent of ripening fruit and soft greens from a nearby farm was an irresistible beacon, a promise of survival for his family. Every step was a risk, but for his young, it was a necessary one. Simultaneously, a different kind of desperation was slithering through the undergrowth. A massive African rock python, a creature of immense power and stealth, had been driven from its subterranean lair. Its home, a complex system of burrows and rocky overhangs deep in the forest, had been destroyed by a recent, uncontrolled wildfire. It was a refugee, a displaced predator driven by a hunger that transcended malice. Its instincts, honed over a lifetime of survival, were now focused on a single, compelling scent carried on the dry wind: the intoxicating aroma of goats and chickens from a human farm. Its coiled body, a lethal spring of muscle, was a weapon of pure instinct, and it too was heading for the edge of the forest, driven by an urgency it could not ignore. The stage was set. The morning, usually a time of serene quiet, was about to become the backdrop for a clash of worlds. A father's love, a predator's hunger, and a human's choice, all converging on a single, fragile point. The early morning air hung heavy with a thin mist, a ghostly veil of white that clung to the green grass and the weathered, leaning planks of a wooden fence. From afar, the scene was one of pastoral peace. The distant calls of birds mingled with the soft rustle of leaves, creating a gentle symphony. On one side of the fence, the gorilla troop moved with cautious grace. They were an army of shadows, sifting through the undergrowth for any sign of nourishment. Keto, the silverback, stood guard, his massive chest a silent shield. But a moment of peace, a brief lapse in his constant vigilance, was all it took. A young gorilla, barely old enough to forage on its own, its eyes wide with the innocent curiosity of youth, wandered away from the group. It was captivated by a pile of dry straw and some rotten wooden barrels near the fence line, a place where a new, sweet scent seemed to be concentrated. The scent of decaying fruit was a powerful lure. The young gorilla moved closer, its small fingers reaching out to touch the soft, crackling straw. Suddenly, the stillness was broken. A silent, imperceptible tremor ran through the pile of straw. Faster than the eye could follow, a massive, muscular form uncoiled itself. It was the African rock python, its scales a mottled pattern of earthy browns and blacks, a perfect camouflage. It lunged, a flash of primeval speed and power. The young gorilla's cry was a high-pitched, desperate shriek that tore through the morning air. The python's body wrapped around the small primate, a living vice that tightened with sickening speed. The sound of small bones and ribs giving way, a faint, horrifying crackle, was muffled by the python's coils. The young gorilla's panicked cries turned to gasps, its eyes wide with terror as air was squeezed from its lungs. The commotion brought the entire troop to a panic halt. Keto's head snapped towards the sound, his guttural roar shaking the very earth. He charged, a mountain of black fur and muscle, but the flimsy, rickety wooden fence stood between him and his child. He slammed into it, the old planks groaning under his weight, but the barrier held. The silverback was a picture of impotent fury, a father watching his child die, a few feet away, but trapped behind an unbreakable wall. Every step he took closer to the fence was a step into the jaws of danger. He knew the python was a formidable foe, but for his child, he was willing to risk everything. His roars, once a sound of authority, now became a desperate plea. On the other side of the farm, a man was working. Elias, the farm owner, was stacking bales of dry hay when the sudden, blood-chilling shriek reached his ears. He dropped his bale and sprinted towards the sound, his heart pounding with a nameless dread. When he reached the fence, his breath caught in his throat. The sight was a primal nightmare. A young gorilla being suffocated by a monstrous python, its eyes bulging with terror, and an enraged silverback on the other side, roaring in helpless agony. The line between predator and prey, man and beast, was about to be crossed in a way neither of them could have ever predicted. Elias froze, his mind reeling. The tableau before him was something out of a documentary, a brutal, unforgiving moment of nature. But this was no film. The young gorilla's cries were fading, its limbs twitching weakly. The python's coils were like steel cables, impossibly tight. The silverback's eyes, a maelstrom of rage and despair, met his across the fence. In that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just an animal looking at a man. It was a father looking at another being, a silent plea hanging in the humid air. Elias's training as a wildlife ranger, a role he'd long since retired from, kicked in. He didn't see an alpha predator and a dangerous snake. He saw a life slipping away. His instinct was to intervene. He knelt cautiously, observing the python's coiling body, its head swaying slightly, its deadly gaze fixed on its prey. The snake's hot, musky breath washed over him, a warning. His heart hammered in his chest, a frantic drumbeat telling him to run. But he couldn't. He knew he couldn't simply pull the gorilla free. The python's grip was too strong. Such a move would only risk killing the young primate and putting himself in grave danger. He had to act fast, and he had to be smart. He backed away from the fence, his eyes never leaving the scene. He ran towards his barn, his mind racing. He needed a tool, something that could neutralize the python without causing more harm. His gaze fell upon an old, dusty fire extinguisher sitting in a corner. It was his only chance. He snatched the extinguisher, its cold metal a stark contrast to the burning urgency in his veins, and ran back. The young gorilla's body was now limp, its breath a shallow, barely there hiss. Elias knew he was out of time. He pulled the safety pin and aimed the nozzle at the python's head, an act of sheer, unadulterated courage. A jet of white, freezing gas erupted from the canister with a fierce hiss, shrouding the scene in a cold, misty cloud. The python flinched, its head recoiling. The freezing shock of the carbon dioxide was a surprise, but it wasn't enough to make it release its grip. The snake's coiled body only tightened, a furious instinct to crush its prey before the strange new threat could escalate. Keto, the silverback, saw the distraction. With a renewed, earth-shaking roar, he slammed his body against the fence again and again, his roars drawing the python's attention. It was a silent, desperate partnership. The snake's head darted between the man and the silverback, its concentration broken. Elias, seizing the moment, continued to spray the cold gas at the snake's head, the acrid smell and chilling spray a disorienting assault on the serpent's senses. Finally, with a convulsive jerk, the python's coils began to loosen, its body slithering away just enough to break the hold on the gorilla's tiny chest. Elias lunged forward, grabbing the young, motionless primate and pulling it free, cradling it against his chest. He stood breathless, a savior in a world he was only meant to observe. The battle was over, but the air was still thick with tension. Elias held the young gorilla tightly, its tiny body trembling against his chest. The silverback, no longer roaring, stood on the other side of the fence, its powerful form still, its deep-set eyes locked onto Elias. The rage was gone, replaced by a profound, searching gaze. It wasn't a challenge, it was an interrogation. With a gentle, careful motion, Keto reached a hand through a gap in the fence, its massive, leathery fingers extended. It was an invitation, a gesture of quiet authority and trust. Elias, his own hand shaking, understood. He carefully stepped to the fence, its rickety, would-have-forgotten boundary, and presented the young gorilla to its father. Keto's massive hand, a tool of immense strength, took the infant with a tenderness that was breathtaking. The young gorilla, whimpering, was immediately nestled into the safety of its father's chest. The entire troop gathered around, making soft, comforting hoots and grunts, a symphony of relief and reunion. The python, its scales now shimmering with the last vestiges of the icy gas, slowly, sluggishly retreated. Its powerful body, a symbol of primal danger, was now nothing more than a defeated shadow, slinking back into the thick, protective canopy of the forest as if it had never been there at all. Elias stood there, his back against the fence, watching the scene unfold. The roar in his ears had been replaced by a quiet awe. His heart, which had just moments ago been a frantic drumbeat of terror, now pulsed with an overwhelming sense of relief and wonder. He had faced down a creature of pure instinct to save another, and in doing so, had found himself a part of a much larger, more profound narrative. He had become a bridge between two worlds. Keto, holding his young one tight against his chest, turned his head once more towards the man. The distance between them was only a few feet, but the unspoken understanding was infinite. The silverback's eyes, dark pools of wisdom and experience, met Elias's. There was no need for words, no need for thanks. In a world defined by the harsh rules of survival, a moment of profound courage had created a new, fragile language, one of trust and mutual respect. Elias simply gave a small, respectful nod, a gesture of silent acknowledgement. Then, he turned and walked away, leaving the gorilla troop to its reunion. He left behind him a scene of rare and precious beauty, a powerful silverback cradling its child, its eyes reflecting the setting sun, and a man walking back to his farm, forever changed by a single act of compassion. This story is more than just a dramatic moment of survival. It is a reminder that even when the world around us is turning to ash, the light of empathy can still shine through. It shows us that in a moment of life and death, the instinct to protect and the courage to act can erase all boundaries between species. It is a testament to the powerful, life-affirming truth that the lines we draw between ourselves and the wild are not as solid as we think they are. The deepest connections, the most profound acts of kindness, are often found in the most unexpected places. It is in these moments that we find our shared humanity, not just with each other, but with all living things.